people want to be with people and work with people that are enjoyable to be around and feel engaged. They want to be a part of a project, and that's the person you're going to hire again. When you are specific to a niche, you're able to charge more for your offer. So for me, that is when my business started doing a lot better. I feel like it's a problem with all creatives. You're always undercharging, undervaluing your work. But when you are niche specific and you have that skill set and you've developed it and you're sticking out among and away from the generalists, you're able to make more per project.
Jason Strull, welcome to the podcast, man. Glad to have you on.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Let me give you guys like a little bit of a context of Jason and I. So Jason and I, we went to college together, did some video work together. He knew way more about video than I did at the time. Now I have far surpassed him. Totally kidding. Jason is an amazing motion graphic designer as well. So he's, a great cinematographer, great video producer, but his best skill is motion graphics. So you guys should check out his work. I remember there was a mutual friend of ours. He was telling me, and he's an amazing filmmaker as well. And he was like, there is nobody I know that is a better motion graphic designer than Jason Strull. So job well done. And that proves to be really helpful for a lot of the clients that you have. But Jason and I, we went to college together. He was in my wedding. We've shot short films together. And so we're pretty close. And we also have an affinity in that he runs a small video production company, or I shouldn't say small. He just runs a lean team, basically a one-man band video production company, and but does it for big clients and big numbers and with big crew. And the deliverable is amazing. You wouldn't tell the difference between that and a big creative agency putting that together. So that's really cool. And I want to talk about that for the audience. I think that's really helpful. A lot of companies, a lot of industries are scaling back their business, whether for the economy or for whatever reason. But sometimes it can tend to be a smart decision because you don't have a lot of overhead. And instead of over leveraging ourselves, we can be creative as video production companies by having a small team. So I want to talk about that. The first thing I want to ask is, how do you get into the business? Not just the skill set aspect of it, but more of the business side of things. How do you start a video production company?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say, first off, you should start with the foundation outside of the business, which is the question, what am I trying to accomplish with my life? And also, what am I passionate about and what am I good at? I think that's an important question that you shouldn't overlook, because some people do, and they work themselves into a situation that then they just start backpedaling from. So I feel like I started from the perspective that I was young. We had just got married, me and my wife, and we wanted to be able to travel some. And so I wanted to have some freedom to not be locked down to a job. Currently, I was. So I basically started a brand called Buttery Goodness, and it was basically my offer was brand videos for tech startups to increase awareness and sales. And basically, that was something that I was able to do through animated explainer videos. So it was completely non-locational. So that was a good aim for me. But I didn't necessarily start there. And I think that was one of the mistakes that I made, is I didn't start specific with that brand I just said. I started random. First, I started wedding videos, which was a problem. It was locationally. That was my first thing. And I was like, I'll do some wedding videos. And I started doing them. And then it was a stressful situation. And then I was like, let's not do that. I did some local videos for different businesses in the area. It just really wasn't working to solve kind of that life balance that I needed. And that's when I kind of got led to understanding I need to be more specific, so that way I can marry my life with my business, and so it can be effective. And so I think that's one important thing to start out with, right? The other thing is, I didn't have any portfolio items to even show people I can do this. And a lot of times when you want to work with someone, you want to see that they can do the job well. Not just a video, but a video that directly represents what they want to see for their specific product or service. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to create a custom, I'm going to do my own video of animation and show off the best I could possibly do. And this is going to kind of launch my career into doing animation. And so I spent 3 months and I created this beautiful piece of animation, and I, threw it online. I said that I had done this, and I told people I'm starting this company for animated brand videos, and it actually did work for me. I don't know if it worked for everyone, but it worked for me in that I did have multiple companies reach out because of the quality of the animation. Because I said that kind of animation is what I want to be backing my company, and I had multiple calls with companies, and we started doing projects together. So I got very specific. I went with explaining animation videos, and it worked for me. And so that was when I think things really started to take off and be productive. But I had a problem, and that was I just had this video and this general idea where I was going brand videos, and people didn't necessarily understand what I did exactly, and my business needed like the next step, the next upgrade. And for me, that was like designing a logo, designing a website, designing an offer that people could land on this page and that they could be informed. And so I basically took those portfolio items for those first companies and I put it real nice. I got them to get a review. They fill it out on, I use clutch.com to do the reviews. I got their reviews on there to like verify, like this is an actual solution. It worked for them and it's great, 5 stars. And I have a type form that people can fill out, and they can send different questions or get a video quiz to see, get a quote or a referral for what the price could be or what we could do for them. And when I did that, I started getting a lot more people understanding what I did, reaching out, getting more conversations, getting more leads, and things just kind of snowballed from there. So in general, in short, basically it's like I needed to start with an idea that married with my life goals. I needed to have some kind of an item that spoke directly to my client. I needed an offer that was very specific and niche down to them. And I needed a way on the website for them to get in contact with me and in a clear messaging that connected with that end goal. And when I did all those things, it really started snowballing to an effective lead generation machine. And I just kept getting clients and referrals coming from that.
Everyone talks about your niche, and like you have to pick a niche, find a niche and just stay in that lane. And I think that can be overwhelming for people maybe just starting out because you're still developing your voice and you don't know what niche to pick. And you first started out doing weddings and doing whatever that came your way. And then you decided, okay, I'm going to do actually what I'm really good at. And you sort of like process of elimination. And I'm curious, would you agree with that? Like, do you feel like finding a niche early on is important, or kind of waiting until you understand what you like, what you don't like, and what your goals are objectively, and then finding a niche and then sticking with that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think you could approach it a couple different ways. I think the main point behind a niche is that it does 2 things. Number one, if you have a niche, and someone else, that's an offer for like, for example, for me, we'll just use me. It's like, it's for marketing. Mine is brand videos for tech startups that increase awareness and sales versus someone who says, we create awesome brand video explainers, like brand video explainers for companies that work or something like that. When you niche down and get very specific, what happens is you become the obvious choice when you're paired against that other one. It's like if a tech startup owner is coming to your website and the other person's website, they're going to pick you over the other one because you specialize in it. The second thing is that when you specialize, all the work you're doing is training you and making you even more skilled with each project you complete to be that much better than the generalist. So then when it comes to your product and your portfolio and your execution, you're better in skill set because of the time you've devoted to that specific niche. So it pays off in those 2 ways, which is why I think it benefits. But if you don't know what your niche is, I think you could treat it like a funnel where you do wedding videos first, and you start wide because you want to see, what do I enjoy? What works best for me? What am I getting the most compliments on? What am I getting the most sales on? What am I getting the most opportunities from? What are people getting me good feedback from the most? So you could start wide, but I know what a lot of people do is they want the money when they're starting wide. They don't have a business and they just take everything. And what happens is they just get buried in this just melting pot of creative work where they're doing things they don't want to do. They're doing like really long, maybe bitchy projects, and they have maybe some good projects that they enjoy. And what happens is they're just kind of stuck in that limbo land. And I was there for a little while, but getting out of it really is niching down is how you get out of that limbo land. And here's the other reason why it's so important. When you are specific to a niche, you're able to charge more for your offer. So for me, that is when my business started doing a lot better when I was starting to niche. I feel like it's a problem with all creatives. You're always undercharging and undervaluing your work. But when you are niche specific and you have that skill set and you've developed it and you're sticking out among and away from the generalists, you're able to make more per project. So this is the issue. People say, well, if I niche down, I'm going to lose my wedding videos. If I niche down, I'm going to lose my local business videos. I'm going to lose all this money that I have. You're tied by like this fear of niching down. You don't want to niche. That's the whole point. If you're taking a job out of fear, and that's the motivation, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And that's one of the really important lessons behind niching down, because it's actually a lie that you're telling yourself. When you do the niche, it only enables you to make more money, to support your business better and have it be successful because of those 3 reasons that I just described. So from my experience, it just paid off. It's actually doing the opposite and going wide is what keeps your business back. So it seems counterintuitive to limit your scope, but it's when you limit your scope is actually when you take off.
So talking about limitations, why is it important for you when you started your business to keep a lean team? Why just Jason and then hire everyone else with contractors?
So I don't think there's like any wrong way to necessarily do this. I think that there's successful ways to run businesses and structure things with using W-2 employees and using contractors. So in my situation, I find that there's 2 things to consider whether you would do one or the other. And the 2 things are reliability and then cost. And reliability being the main one. So I find that if you have the employee, they're always there, they're on the payroll, they're ready to go anytime for any project. So if you have this consistent flow of work coming in, you're like, I need this W-2 employee, I need them to be reliable in there, then you have them. What I've found is those, obviously with the cost and the health insurance and all the things that come with having an employee, it doesn't necessarily, it could be more of a cost, it could cost more to have them as an employee, depending on how you structure it if you compared it with contractors. So in my case, it makes more sense to do a lot of contracting work. And the reason why is because people actually are open to contract. I have so many people that I contract and they want it and they like it. They're not even looking. If I probably offered them a job, they probably wouldn't necessarily take it. They would say, I have plenty of work coming in from all these other people. So for me, it makes more sense to budget each project and have a role for each project. And that way I'm not, paying the health insurance, paying the extra thing, paying them just to be there. Because I guess the way I think about it is you could say, for me, it's not like I have enough projects that I would need an employee because I have enough contractors to take care of the work, if that makes sense. So for me, that balance, it makes sense because of my situation. I could see someone who maybe has just like floods and floods and floods and floods and floods of video. They're like, I need someone like on a desk 24/7 editing through the night. I don't know. Like they need this person there. But I solve the issue of that, the employee by having multiple contractors to choose from. So I have a whole list of contractors that I have in my database that do videography, that do animation, that do sound, that do production assistant, and all these different things for different shoots. And it's all like there, and they're all reliable. And I also have production managers who have lists who've gone to, here in Virginia, they've gone to film school. They know a lot of people on the East Coast. And I know people from the West Coast when I was there. So I kind of built my network where there's a lot of people who are good and talented at what they do, and they're ready to do a job, and they're asking for a day rate for that work. And so you just understand your budget, go through finding a rate that works for them, and then you have that for the project. So for me, that's been really great and really available. And I've not really run into an issue because I've been able to find those contractors and find those people to basically take care of the work. And that allows me to kind of run a tight ship and not have to worry too much about all this employee things, employee benefits and health insurance and all this different things. And that really has been made possible because of the digital age and where we're at with Slack, Zoom, Google Meet, payment online, animation projects, a lot of things, editing, online. So it really has only been, possible in the last couple, 20 years that this kind of development into a kind of a one-man business is possible through that kind of contracting.
And do you feel like a business is do they feel like they're getting shortchanged because they're spending a lot of money and only having one person interacting with them? Do you try to hide that fact from them, or you sort of let them know, or does that even matter or phase them?
So, I mean, if one of my clients is sitting across the way from me right now, I feel like the best way to answer the question is talking to them. So like I'm gonna like address them, like it's like I would ask them like, so what did you need from me? And they would say, well, I needed this deliverable. And what did you need it to do? Well, I needed it to inform this specific problem, and I needed to do it in such a way where it convinced them that we were the solution. Like that's the issue you want me to solve. And they would agree with that. And it's like, do you care how that is completed? Like, as long as a person clicks that button and does that thing, do you care how it was done? Really, they would probably say no. Like, I understand my clients decently well. They would say, no, I don't care. And they wouldn't feel that they were necessarily gypped or something because you ran an efficient ship. The other thing is, I am also more affordable than large agencies. My pricing it's competitive. And because I'm running such an intuitive ship, the pricing is competitive. And I tend to win out above agency quotes because I have a beautiful portfolio and I have prices that are more competitive than large agencies. So I'm right in the middle where I'm the obvious choice, and I'm also niched down in the tech startup world. So I become the obvious choice because of those things. So it hasn't been a problem because I always focus on the value that's added with the product. And the second they try to start turning it into something else, and they've never done it. That's the thing. It's like I feel like that might be an internal, like what you just asked. I feel like sometimes I personally try to maybe show up extra and like have cool lighting setups, and sometimes I feel the need to like dress everything up to make it like make people feel like
show the credibility.
Yeah, because sometimes you have like this inferiority complex. Like I have beautiful portfolio items on the website. We make amazing work. I've made videos for $4,000 that look like $30,000 videos. Multiple of my clients say I've paid $30,000 for this, and this was when I was first starting out. I don't charge $4,000 per video for commercials now, but when first starting out, we were making gorgeous work and with not like the best lighting. Like people get all like caught up, like us as like videographers and DPs. We get caught up in the newest light, the 4000 H9 with the such and such LUTs, and this mic with the HTW974 HZZT P9. We get all excited about these different versions and the Red Komodo, but at the end of the day, technology is so efficient and it's so small and it's so capable, and the editing post-processing is so powerful. You can make amazing, beautiful, gorgeous, effective videos with intuitive business processes more effectively now than you ever could. And you shouldn't be penalized for doing that more efficiently. And the way you do that is you offer a competitive rate to the business. They don't feel like they're being taken advantage of because the end product is gorgeous. The end product works and it does exactly what it's supposed to the customer.
What about hiring contractors? Because building a team is really good, and just, going to work every day and having a coworker, a teammate, a friend, knowing your editor, knowing your DP is special, right? And building that sort of company culture, business culture, but you don't have that luxury. How do you kind of bake that into hiring contractors, that you're just sort of finding someone that you've worked with in the past, or like, can you find people that you really enjoy working with? And what would you speak to someone who's looking to hire somebody but has never worked with them before? How do you look and find the best contractors for your projects?
Yeah, I feel like there's almost two different questions. It's like company culture versus best contractor. Those like, in my opinion, like two different things, because I would say there is a downside to being more remote, working with contractors, because there is I've worked in offices where you get every day, see the same exact person, a lot of camaraderie is built. That's a very nice experience. So I would say that is maybe in my experience, I do miss more of that aspect, but I also do get that in just my normal everyday life. That's what I try to do with meeting up with friends and things like that. I kind of get the camaraderie in that way, and the work isn't necessarily exactly where like I build, that level of camaraderie. So it's like you try to, like, if you're not getting it at work, you try to do that in your own personal life, right? But then when it comes to the quality contractors, I feel like the number one places that I do it is, this is gonna sound weird, I never even thought this would work, but it's through Facebook. I actually get a lot of my clients through Facebook. They have, so there's a
Like Facebook groups or
yeah, Facebook
what?
groups. And it's
Yeah.
like the most, like you wouldn't think that, but that's like where I get so many. The second one to that would be just friends and referrals. I know so many people across the states just because I've traveled a lot and I know a lot of people. I've never really lived in one place very long. So I have a lot of people. That's my second top. But Facebook, my goodness, there's groups. Just try it. Say the city
Yeah.
name, film making, or production crew, something. They'll be on there. You drop your project. You ask, hey, got such and such. Here's the budget. This is what we're doing. Here's like kind of the end deliverable. Drop your portfolios. Would love to work with you guys. And people just show up. Like it just works. So it's almost like this.
I'm curious with that. Like when you vet people, because I was just doing this with a project the other day where I wanted a behind the scenes shooter and to PA on set. So not like a huge contracted job, but I'm curious, when you vet people, you obviously look at their portfolio, especially for like a DP or a gaffer, like, okay, this is what they've done. But after that, what about like the relational side of things? Like, how do you gauge that? Do you set up a meeting of like, hey, I'm going to hire you. And it's not just a PA. This is a bigger job. Do you set up a meeting with them and say, hey, let's get to know each other first before I kind of pull the trigger on hiring you?
Yeah. What I usually do is that's a great question. So I always obviously want to make sure that they're the right fit for the job. And the two things is like, I do jump on a call. A call is important. That's really important. But before we do the call, I get the portfolio and I talk to them about it. I just see how they are on text. I see how they are responding. You can get kind of a vibe for the person even before you meet them. If everything looks good on the portfolio end, I usually, if someone's in the industry and they offer something, if they have a portfolio, and it looks really good, most likely they don't achieve that end goal by being a loser. Like it's a strong element.
They have good people skills.
Yes. Like you wouldn't have that final project that you worked on that looks like that if you sucked. So it's just proof. It's absolute proof that they know what they're doing and they're capable. So then the next question is, how's your attitude? How's your camaraderie? Will you be reliable? Will you show up? That's my other question, which I have no proof of just because you have a portfolio. That's when you set meetings, you set calls. Did they show up on time? Were they skipping? Are you getting these signals like, okay, they're not capable? There's been multiple times where I've been looking for a certain person, and I've been halfway through that process of, I might even get off the call, and after the call, I feel like this might not work so much, and I'll be like, you know what? I might tell them on the call like, hey, yeah, after looking through everything, I don't think that's the best fit, and but thanks for taking the time to talk to me and go through this, and we'll just cut it off there. But if I sometimes it's not so quite obvious, and I need to think on a little bit more, and then I'll just send them a text and say, hey, I've been thinking about it. I have a couple other people that I've been looking at. I think I'm gonna go with them. Try to do it in the most like nice way possible, obviously.
Yeah.
But I do drop people out because of those things if I'm getting those negative signs with reliability, attitude. If I feel confident that they're able to continue through.
Even though you have that vetting process, do you ever feel like people are just there for their portfolio?
I don't actually mind if someone's there just to get a portfolio shot or have something, just to get it done. Because at the end of the day, I'm looking to make a beautiful video. And if you showing up just wanting the portfolio shot gets that done, I don't mind too much. I would say, obviously, it's nice when you're there with your heart and soul and you're trying to invest in the team, trying to have good camaraderie. You're not just in and out and I'm out of here. I would say what you're describing to me I would say, however, I think it impacts more than just a portfolio item, because I don't even think it's possible to just be there for a portfolio item, because it inevitably affects more than that. Because what happens, they get this mindset like, I'm like union mindset, like I'm not touching that, I don't do that, I'm not paid for that, I'm clear for that or something. Obviously there's some legal reason I get that, but like sometimes like, I don't do that in my line of work. But I guess when I'm on a set, I'm hoping that some people are like, oh yeah, I can pick it up, I can help do that, or I'll sweep that up if that, it fell down. I think that spirit adds to the overall quality of the entire final product. So if someone does have an attitude, I think it would affect their portfolio item. I think the only way for you to make something truly at the top of your work is if you're completely engaged and you're free of that kind of a mindset. So I personally haven't had that kind of a problem that much. I have had a couple people like that, and they're not that fun. The other thing is like, okay, if someone wants to be like that, it's like, you're not really going to, people pick up on that mentality. And it's just like, sure, you did a good job, but like, we could tell you don't want to be here. People want to be with people and work with people that are enjoyable to be around and feel engaged. They want to be a part of a project, and that's the person you're going to hire again. So if there was someone like that, I probably wouldn't necessarily hire them again. I would probably be asking my production manager and looking around myself like, hey, we had so-and-so, doing videography. Let's try somebody else next time, and we'll just try something out. Like he did okay, but like, let's try and find someone else. But that's kind of the way that I think about it.
What about actors and extras? Because I know you have that a lot in your more recent projects, and that can seem a bit daunting. A lot of people are doing documentary style stuff, but they kind of want to branch out into hiring some actors and some models for their shoot. They may know some friends, and that's sometimes the best way to go. But for you, outside of that, what is your best protocol for getting good actors?
Yeah, getting good actors it takes some time. So I usually hire a production assistant, production manager, or just a casting director to do that. It just depends on what role they want to play in that. Sometimes my production manager will do both roles of like, they'll also get the actors and they'll do production management. So just depends on whoever you're assigning to that. But what happens is we have like a 3-step kind of a process where we just use Backstage because it works really well. And Backstage costs like, I think $20, $25 a month. And a lot of actors are already there. And you basically put your thing up there. We have them in the instructions of Backstage to deliver a like 15, 30-second kind of demo of whatever they would be doing, or a portion of the script. If they're running background, or if they're running, we don't do reviews for background. We just look at the photos for background. But if they're doing a small speaking part, or if they're doing a large speaking part, we get them to get like 45, 30-second portion of that script, and they send it through. And we get a lot of them. And basically, he'll go through those, and then he'll send me the best ones. And then I'll go through the best ones and then say, okay, I like this person. We'll lock them down. We usually lock down more than just one. We want to back up because things happen where they get sick or something like that. So we always have backups. So then we put it like all on Google Drive. We have all the contracts, and we just connect with them. We keep texting them like, a day before, like a week before, 2 days before, the day of, like, because you want to make sure to know, okay, do we need to kick in this other person? And some actors are fine being on the back end. They'll say, yeah, that's okay if I'm not the number one choice. You already have somebody. If you want to pull me in as an extra, a lot of them are willing to do that. It's still for the same rate. It's like, this is a rate, but like, if, last second, would you be available? Like, yeah, I don't have anything else right now. So sure.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you want to have that backup when it comes to actors and things like that. But through that process, we're able to find a lot of the actors we need for main spokespersons, background characters, and we find and meet a lot of cool people. And when you do those, like, you can really tell the personality when they do the reels and they send you those kind of like those test shots and stuff. It's really cool to see them come alive and some of them add stuff to your video, and they add creativity. Yeah. And like when you see someone going above and beyond on the reel like that, it makes you excited about the project. And you feel like, I think I need this person. I'm thinking multiple people in my head right now that are just like brilliant. I've met some really awesome people through Backstage and acting that add that value to your project. And it's fun when you find them.
Now, when you say like you're organizing this project, we've talked a lot about you just running it all on your own. But when you come up to these bigger projects, so you're dealing with the client, negotiating the price, signing the contract. But then when you say, okay, now I'm going to hire all these contractors, you're thinking your DP, your gaffer, your grip, your actors. But do you have like a production manager or a producer that helps you out? Is it always the same person? Okay.
Yeah, I absolutely do. So I know 2 production managers here in VA that have helped me with most of the productions here. And they've done a great job, and they've always been available. So if one of them's not, then I would ask the other. They basically take care of like the monotonous stuff, like a lot of the communications, a lot of the management of like location, finding locations, talking to insurance and getting things, I think Film Emporium is one of the insurance things we use. We go back and forth about rates. What do we need for coverage? All this different stuff. So a lot of the more meticulous things, they manage that. That way I can connect. I spend most of my time connecting with the client and building out the main visual concept and the creative. So it allows me to be more creative director and like executive producer. And they're more like nuts and bolts kind of a thing. And that's usually how we run things. And we have a whole structure of how we do that. and I have that kind of written out in my back end and documents, and we run through that on a document, and we go check things step by step. So we're just knocking out exactly what we're supposed to as we're going through production. So it's just kind of like clockwork, and we have that Google Doc, and we're both just like in there updating stuff, doing things, knocking those things out. But having something like that, it's really powerful to handle a larger production when you have like 16 different crew members on set, and making sure that they're all going to be there. Like dietary restrictions, we have forms for people. We have, clearing forms for the actors so we can use, their face in the production. He takes care of all that to make sure they're signed and filed away where they're supposed to be filed. So all that kind of stuff's really important. And yeah, they're really important. Production managers is really important to keep all that in organization when running a larger commercial production.
So with hiring all these people, like the numbers can add up pretty quickly. And at some point, and this is kind of why people run a lean team or just a solo filmmaker, and people can make a lot of money just doing weddings. And I'm curious, like, how do you stay ahead of the profit margin game? Like, how are you looking at those numbers, and what are you happy with? We've talked before about like having margins, not having any margins for or any profit for some projects because you just wanted to do it and hire the crew and do it all together and then use that as a portfolio piece. But now as you're settled a little bit more, is there a margin number that you like to stick with?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I actually like met with a guy who works for another production studio larger than mine, who actually works like only for like budgeting. Like he manages like the budgets and things like that. And like had a whole call with him. And
Line producer.
Line producer. And his name's Bryce with Cypher. And he gave me a lot of really good insight on like how to kind of balance those things out. And like basically you have like a client facing budget, and then you have a sometimes these terms kind of like a working budget and a client budget, kind of like the way you think about it. It's like the budget from the client and then the working budget that you're working with. And the difference between the two is the profit that you have, basically. So he like obviously describes to me like you have all your line items for like your day rates, your gear, your rental gear, all this stuff, and that's like his job to like line that all out. And that's usually what my production manager acts as, also line producer as well. And he lines those out to like get a final budget for those things. And what you kind of want to end up with after taxes is like a 30% profit on the margin. That's generally what people are aiming for. It could be lower, but 30% after tax is like a healthy margin to aim for. So basically, the client-facing budget is like, the total. The working budget is the budget so the client budget's inflated some to account for losses, insurance problems, different things. It's always inflated like sometimes 10, 15% for certain categories. So, but it usually ends up that even though you have that risk, it's not like you're just trying to have no risk and then you just profit off the risk. It's normal and expected and healthy and correct for people to have that inflated into their budget. So it's very common for a line producer. So then after that, you also have your profit margins as well added into that working budget. And so that working budget's the one you use when you're going through and hiring everybody. So we have the working budget number, and we line every single thing out that needs to be in, and we add the budget, and we make sure that we're breaking even and we have some wiggle room. And basically, when we're going through and getting all these roles, we're just assigning people to these day rates, assigning, working with our insurance, companies to make sure that our insurance is the right price. A lot of times our insurance is more expensive than we were previously guessing. It always goes up every year. But like that's why you have these, margins to work with, right?
Yeah.
But it just kind of looks like that. You have that working budget, you have the client budget, you work in those risks and tolerances, and then you work in that profit margin, and you then develop and hire everyone through aiming to hit that goal.
Going back to, selling your potential client, a prospective lead that you have, how do you, or even before that, how do you craft a compelling offer? Because I feel like this is an important thing for any business, but you've really focused on this. It's not just creating really cool videos that are trendy, but making something that is appealing to the client, like offering value up front. So what is that offer, like crafting that compelling offer? What would you say to people?
I would say that is the number one difference between me closing deals and not closing deals. And I feel like people like Gary Vee really established this with his, I forget what it is, jab, 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 hook, or jab, 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 give. I forget. There's so many different versions of it.
Yeah.
Like you give, and then you take. Like that mindset is so powerful. And I used to like try and like, I was like more like business minded about everything when I jumped on the call. It's kind of lame, but like people don't care.
So you're saying this is crafting the offer on the phone. So you've got the client on the phone. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
So not like there's obviously your messaging on your website and your wording, but I would say that is true because like a lot of times, you know, you could say a lot of great stuff on your website and capture a bunch of people. And then after that, you can make the sell. But you're saying on the phone, this is what I would tell them. And it's make or break it right here.
Yeah, really, because they've never met you before. And they're calling you to see, do I trust this person? Can they do what they're saying? And is what they're saying and what they're going to do the thing that's going to help my business? And so really, before I used to like make sure like everything's, you know, I didn't take and consider their problem and make sure that they were taken care of like to the nth degree at the very front of the call. So now like when I do calls, like I'm just like showering them with as much value as possible. So I do a lot of like research ahead of time on their website. I look at their problem. I look at their core offers. I look at their softwares. I look at the apps, the way people use them, and I get a good understanding of it. And I've done this so much now that it does feel more natural for me. I will say it takes more time when you're first starting out to try and get this, but like I can jump on someone's website and just based off my experience and the time I've had doing this, I can build out some ideas and ways to communicate their offer. Where are the holes? What are they missing? What would be an effective way to communicate to their audience? What does their audience need? How would their audience receive this message? Look at other people who've already done it and see what's working. Look at the comments in the videos of past videos to see what sticks out about these comments and what do they don't like, what do they like. I do some of this kind of research. It's just like a very it's almost like you couldn't even explain to someone how to exactly do this mathematically. It's more an intuitive process where you're just thinking to yourself, I'm going to like suck in everything I can understand about this brand and create this offer that would connect with their audience. And then when I jump on the call and I start talking to them, like, guys, I just got off. I was just talking to a lady this past week about about her business, and I had done that. I had done everything I talked about, and she was like saying, "I really appreciate you going into detail and giving me all this feedback about my audience and how I could communicate to them. It seems that you're prepared." This person feels like I actually care, and I do. It's not like I'm pretending. I'm doing this. I'm showing you that you should hire me because I know what I'm talking about, and I care about communicating your offer in an effective way. So when you do this and you show up on the call like this, they're not. If they feel like this guy's got it and he can close this, then what I'll do is and then I get specific. I start giving them specific video examples. So I'll put together on Canvas some screenshots. Sometimes I use Midjourney. Sometimes I just sketch it out myself, or I'll hire a storyboard artist to sketch it out for me. But I'll get like a general kind of idea for a video. I'll have screenshots of past commercials with certain styles that look a certain way. I'll add moods. I'll add just build up this whole board. And it takes me, I don't know, maybe it's been probably like an hour, 2 hours. If I really believe in the client and I really want this client and I think that we really could have some good offer. And when I get on this call with them, I have this for them already. And I have this market research. When you come to someone with that much attention, they feel like you care. And then when it comes to price, you're like, well, what if they don't go with me? This is the thing. It's like, what if they don't go with me? I spent all this time. Here's the problem. It's like, sure, that could happen. But you just got better at putting together an offer. But the thing is, people start to care less and less and less and less and less about the price, the more you care about the offer and the more you're building out that value to them. They realize, you know what? Usually they have a budget. Like at this point, if someone has a budget and you're on call with them, and even on my form, you can fill out, you can say, what is your budget? So we already know what we're looking at. And if they're like, yeah, we have this like no budget, you already know what you're expecting, so you can know what to deal with. Or if it doesn't even, if they can't even select the budget because it's too short, then they know, okay, they probably wouldn't do the video. But when someone's on the call, they're expecting to spend money already. It's not a matter about the money. It's a matter about, can you solve this issue and can you connect with my audience? We want brand clarity. We want people to understand our offer and we want it to connect with them on our website. That is what's at stake. And really the price starts to matter less when it comes to that. And that's what I found when you add that value and you come to it with that attention to detail, people tend to close much more frequently with me than they used to.
Well, the problem is most people in my shoes, videographers, we're thinking we're selling cool videos. We're like, hey, what do you want? You want a cool video? I'm going to sell that to you. But that's not solving a problem, or at least you're not outlining what that is. And I feel like that's a huge problem, even though you can craft the coolest video. And yes, that is what you're giving them at the end of the day. That's the deliverable. It's you got to be, adaptable to solving the problem. And that's what you're saying up front is I'm going to rake through their website. I'm going to rake through their social and say, here's what we can provide for you. Because don't just hire me just because you want a cool video. Because most people actually want more than that. They know they need video, but they don't know why. And you're filling in that blank for them with a compelling offer that isn't just creativity and videos and all these like cool bells and whistles. Like you're solving a problem that will, in the end result, make them money.
Right. Thanks for pointing that out. I think that's super huge, and I didn't make that clear enough. I think that's really important to make that distinction. That is the difference between whether they would spend their money or not, because they don't need a cool video. You're 100% right. They have an end goal, and it's that product. It's that person becoming a user of their product or brand or whatever it is that they have. And if you can connect a video that creates that end result, that is what they're willing to pay for. And that's where you can affect your pricing as well. When your videos can make people make decisions, that's when you start having power between it. So you need to start thinking past the creative and into the psychology of the viewer. And that's when the difference happens for sure.
What about negotiating prices? Like that seems like a really tough thing for people to struggle with. And I feel like people jump to it too quickly. Like they're always thinking about what's the number, what's when I say people, I mean people in our shoes, like on the video side of things, like, hey, I have to get paid in order to pay my bills. So I'm always thinking about the number. Are you willing to spend 5, 10, 15, 20? What's the budget? And they jump to it too quickly, or they just don't know how to negotiate the price. Are there any practical tips in negotiating with the client?
Sure. Yeah, like I said in the beginning, I definitely jumped to like price and made people too soon. It didn't add enough value, and it made people feel like I didn't care and I didn't like.
You just want their money.
Yeah, it makes them feel like that. And again, the less you feel like that, the more you have room on that budget. So I think that's an important concept. So it's less about a specific number and more about how much they trust you and how much they feel like you are going to be solving that issue and adding that value to the company, where the engagement of the users is going to pay back their investment. So I think that's the most important part in making them feel that. So with pricing, it's not even like the focus on the price, it's a focus on the value. That's the focus, which then affects the price. The other thing, like when you get specific on the numbers, is I usually don't give a number until I got to do my whole inspiration spiel, where I tell them why it matters so much. Because if you don't do that, and you don't communicate that value, they won't do it. So typically what I do is they fill out the form to get the quote on the email. And I say, guys, that's when I do all the research. Guys, I'm like, hey, super exciting. We put together this quote. I give a little tease about some value about the customer, about like, here's how I think we could really help. It's like, I have some specifics. I'd love to talk to you and get this quote to you on a call. And I put the link for them to lock it in. Most people are intrigued and they're like, oh, he didn't give me the quote on the email. Darn it. So I was like, okay, I better make this call. You shouldn't be dropping quotes on emails. That's just say goodbye. Just say goodbye to the entire thing. It doesn't make sense.
Because they scroll down the proposal and they're just looking at the numbers. They're like, I don't even care about the offer. Just what's the number?
Exactly. Even if you like detail it out in the words, it's not gonna happen. So do not give away your number in the email. The other thing is, if they will not book a call with you, like, well, what if they don't book a call with me? What do? I have had a point where it's like, okay, they won't want to book a call. If they don't want to book a call, like, news flash to you, they're not that interested already. Like, if you give them the email and you have the quote ready and they don't want to jump a call to see it, they're just not that committed to the process, which means you most likely won't close them anyways. Chances are low. If that's the case, and I'm convinced they won't jump on a call, I will send the quote in with the Canvas document with the cool prepared thing. I've not had too many people move forward from that. So I will do it because, like, I put the time into it. It's like, why not? Let's try it. I try to write up a nice little email, try and get it. But at the end of the day, just you don't want to be giving that out. You want to be getting that call with them. Just work with them to get a time and use something like Calendly. They let you use Calendly for free just for one of your logging sessions. So you can have like a link to it. And I booked many clients with that. And yeah, that's kind of how I use it. That getting them.
How do you segue into the conversation of the budget? So you've done the whole offer and the whole proposal, and then you get to the bottom of it and say, whatever. Or do you ask prior to the conversation, hey, what kind of budget are we dealing with? And they have the typical questions of, well, we don't know what this cost, or I don't know, you're the expert here. Like, how do you get into that conversation?
Yeah. So my best practice, if we haven't locked in like a project, we haven't done a deliverable, like I'll pitch a vision for the project. If they're engaged with the vision and I feel that we're solid on the vision on the call, I will pitch them number, because I feel like in my head, the most important thing is that they see the video and it's done and it's solving a problem. It's a full picture. If it lacks clarity and on the call they didn't like the idea and it needs revision, I usually tell them, guys, I love where you've pointed me in this direction. I'm going to make these tweaks and I'm going to update this and I'm going to get back with you and I'm going to get you a very specific number based off that, because I don't want to just like willy-nilly on the call. Also, my production manager wants to know what's going on too, because he's the guy who's running the budget line. And so he's like wants to take care of that. So I just want to say some numbers. He's like, well, we can't do it for that. So I usually tell them not on the call if that's the case. I do tell them on the call, however, if they love the vision, because then I can sell it. I know I can sell the vision, and I'm totally fine jumping on that number on the vision. And usually, most times, when we're sold on vision, I can close them on the call. I say 90% of the time, it would be a close when everyone's sold on vision, and that's when I drop it.
What about so, we've worked a lot. We've had like the business hat on, all the legal stuff, the spreadsheets, and crafting the offer and all of that. But what about the creative aspect of it? The artistry of it. So the businessman versus the artist. Like, how do you balance that? Do you feel like that's a struggle and an obstacle of pursuing something that you want to create versus just delivering a project for the client? Or do you keep that separate? Like, do you feel those two beasts kind of always at each other's throats?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel that that was a really big struggle. I feel like more in the beginning when I was not niching down, and then even after I had niched down. Because there was just like this passion, like make something awesome, and there still is in me. But when you exercise the business side of things in the beginning, it's a new muscle, and so it feels weird. And I feel sometimes even discouraged. I get to the point where I'm like, actually like, I'm making these videos and like, do I really love the work that I'm doing? I also have to balance these profit margins. And like, now maybe I'm kind of like burnt out some. It's like, now I have to make this video because I've got to make money and, I got to pay the bills. And it's like, now I'm doing this video and I'm doing too many of them. And so it's like, you kind of get, when you're working through that whole situation, it's like the thing you used to love so much when you were like 18 or something, just making cool videos with friends, is now become this like stressor where it's like, I've got to perform, such and such amount to like take care of the money as well. And it definitely becomes this thing where it's like, I'm tainting my creative expression, and I'm using it for business. It's like it become, for me it did anyways. It might not be that for everyone, but for me it felt that way. I would say the reason why that is like there's a lack of a balance between your creative, it's like your pricing, your value, your creative work, how much you're working, so the time you're spending working, and then also what projects are you making. It's that balance that's out of balance, which made me feel that way. When I increased my price so that I'm not working 80 hours a week, I was able to do that by niching down. So that I was doing more projects I loved. So now that fixed some of the emotional project where when I'm working on a project, it's one I liked. So niching to something I actually enjoyed was really important, and being able to, but then it's like, okay, you're doing work you love, but now I'm working too much. It's like, okay, well now we got to raise your prices and niche down to get new clients at higher prices and get rid of the smaller ones. So you're doing less work for more money, and you got to work that balance. And I finally got that balance. And so now I'm doing work I liked with a time frame that I liked, and I started being able to be creative again. And that is kind of like how I solved that issue between that creative. And then the other thing, like one of like the side thing as well is once you do that exercise and you start doing creative projects, sometimes when you're busy and you don't want to, I'll do projects I enjoy even when I don't want to sometimes. It still even happens. But what happens is you kind of exercise this muscle of, oh, this is my responsibility. This happens sometimes. I'll get through it. I have my method, and you do it and it's done. And you start getting more used to it. You're like, sometimes it does happen, but you're more okay with it. But it's still important to get those three things right. So that way you're in a good spot between business and creativity.
Is there a tactful approach to saying no to projects for better opportunities? Because I feel like I struggle with that, where you're wanting to say yes to a lot of things because you don't know when the next job's going to come. But I also feel a little like cowardly at the same time for not saying no to certain things that I know probably aren't up my alley. And I respect you for how you approach that. But I also think that takes a lot of wisdom, because you're just like, there's a lot of risk there. And I wonder if there's a tactful approach with that.
The first thing that comes to my mind is like, why are you the one who has to say no? Let them say no. And the way you do that is you charge them a price that it would be worth it to you. If there's something you really don't want to do, and I've adapted this mindset. I heard someone say, I can't remember who it was, but I used to say yes to things. And I have a friend to this day, and he probably, if he's listening, he knows who he is. He says yes to everything, and it's a massive issue. He says it's to his detriment. It's just like, and I'm always telling him, like, dude, you got to say no to this stuff. But what I'll do is I just charge a price that's like, if I would do this for this price, and it's usually insane and crazy. Let them say no. No, I can't. No, we can't do that. It's like, okay, fine. It's like, I didn't want the job anyways, but if you can't do it for this, then I'm not willing to do it. And guess what? They don't come to you again. Those people don't come to you again. And so you fixed your problem. It's the very problem you had. It's like, why not? It's like, you could say, well, just say no. That's true. So that's one other way you could do it. Yeah. That's another way you could do it. Just say no in the first place. And so if you want to say no in the first place, ask ChatGPT to write you a text message and send it to them.
That's perfect. So have them say no, just offer it. That's great advice. Well, to like flip the conversation or that from that last question, from saying no, like we're refining our business and we're refining everything that we want to do to get to the projects that we want to do. But what about the passion projects? And I know this is a little bit different than business, but you and I have worked on 2 short films together, and that was a pleasure. 2019 and then 2021, I believe, it was 21, and 2 big projects. But saying no to, I guess, a passion project, not saying no to the project as a whole, but saying no while you're putting the project together seems to be like the wrong mindset when you're doing a passion project. Like saying yes to a lot of things and having a can-do spirit is important. And I felt like every time I've worked with you, like we haven't it hasn't been just, sunshine and rainbows for everything, like in a moment on set, like we disagree about this or that. But I do feel like your attitude has been, let's make this happen. Like, here's the objective goal. We want to make the best possible film we can. So let's make it happen. How do we do that? And you're willing to sort of give up some things to make that happen. And I want to talk about that spirit for a second. So first, like when Drew comes to you with a project back in the day, 2019, and says, hey, let's make a short film. Why did you say yes? Like, what was your, you didn't have any other big projects to do? So you had to say yes.
So the reason why I said yes is because I think it's important to obviously have a good work-life balance. And part of this goes back to the very beginning thing about why did you start your business in the first place? The business that I have and I run enables me to be able to say yes to those passion projects because I'm a creative just like you, and I like to tell stories, and I like to, try things that I've never tried before, test things. Also, just spending time with you, hanging out, just getting to do something together, like just doing life together is also awesome as well. So when I'm going, I'm not thinking, oh, this is like some work opportunity or portfolio opportunity. I just genuinely enjoy just going, and you're a nice person to be with. You're not overbearing or stressful or something like that. So it's fun. It's like we're just going to create something together. It's like it's just like, hey, we're just going to hang out. I think it was like 1 week at a
Yeah.
time, and then another week. So it's 2 weeks total at 2 different times. And like you cover my flight and things like that. So I don't have to worry about the cost and things like that, which is nice. And so like, but other than that, it's like, to me, it's just, it's an opportunity to do something other than work. It's just like playing around. Like in my mind, it's just like,
Yeah.
we're just going to have fun, make something awesome. And it's stuff that we like to do again. And like, that shows you that you do like to work and do videos. It's like, if I'm actually enjoying this, like I do actually like video making. I love being creative and thinking, how do we solve this problem or do this light effect like you were doing with the Holy Spirit or whatever it was, like figuring out with like the iPhone light and the glass bottle where like that kind of stuff. That's fun. It's like, oh, we're going to figure this out. Oh, how are we going to do that?
Yeah.
And then like, it was like,
So to use a reference for the audience, like we were creating a traditional nativity short film, and we had to do like when the angel comes to Mary, and I didn't want to show an angel and just be like super cheesy with it, but we did this like reflective glass or reflective sequin thing. We shone a light on it and then it reflected on her face, and it was kind of cool. And then we did the same thing with like the scene with the shepherds, and like we had these giant mirrors that we broke. I think we broke them, and we shone a light on it and it like reflected. And then we had this blower out there that was like blowing their garments, their costumes, and it was like 0 degrees. And everyone was having a good time, I guess. But like, though, I think that's the other thing is the memories. Like some of the, like for me, it was a bit stressful because I see a vision and I'm trying to get to that point, and there's all these obstacles, and I'm learning how to like deal with that more and just enjoy the bumps. But sometimes like it's a little stressful. However, like looking back, like there's so many moments where like it didn't seem possible. Like there's no way we could have made this happen, but like we overcame the obstacle with a lot of creative thinking. Like I wouldn't say it was like super creative, but we used a lot of hard work. For example, there's no snow in the traditional nativity story, and it had snowed like 18 inches like a few days before, and we had to shoot this exterior shot with the shepherds, and there was snow all over the ground, and it just would not have matched in the scene. So we literally melted the snow by like taking buckets of water and it was like 55 degrees out. Like it was starting to melt, so it wasn't going to freeze over, but like
it would not have been gone if we just left it.
Yeah, exactly. And we were taking buckets, like totes of water, and just melting it and shoveling it and melting it. But like
you had like a DeWalt gas heater too. You were like scorching it with a gas heater.
Yeah, that's not something that union crew members would do,
right?
Unless we were paying them to do that, that would make sense. But like, I think that's a beautiful thing that I love about making short films is like the can-do-it spirit, the team atmosphere. And I think that's like, it should be left there until you can pay everyone their rate. It should be just left in the domain of passion. Like, let's just do it. Because when passion like leads the way, yes, it's a lot of hard work, but I think the result is a lot of camaraderie, a lot of great memories. And then you're getting better and better at something over time. And that was just like our first film that we had together, Peace on Earth. And you were like the DP with it. We were kind of running back and forth with that. And then we did another one called Still Small Voice. And that was a 50-some minute, it's not even a short film, but that's what we called it. But that was pretty intense. Was there anything that comes to mind with shooting that?
I mean, it's cool to see even like this, like your development as a person onto the next one with just the whole directing and story of it. I feel like Still Small Voice even it was interesting to see the whole like scene and character development of each person and all of it kind of come together. With the narrative one, it's kind of already written for you in the Bible, but this one, it was like your own story and you had to create it, and you had multiple scenes. You had even one like scene where you had like all the people in the audience. You had to, you called in an IOU from the whole church, and I think like multiple people showed up. Like it was pretty cool to see like all of that come together and see you direct that and put it into like one packaged film, and it turned out really well. Like I think we also had someone, I think Tim LaPointe was there as well, and some other actors as well. But I think when you have all these people come together and they're passionate about the project, you notice like the project starts to increase in quality as well. Like when you were checking my work and I'm checking your work and Tim's checking the work and we're all working together, like I noticed our lighting was better. I noticed like our camera angle choices were better. I noticed that a lot of things like were upgraded. If it was just like you there, I think there's an upgrade that comes with that camaraderie of everyone wanting to be there, everyone adding value, checking the work. Like, oh, what if you do this and that? And like we're having more minds on the project, and I think that the quality came out pretty nice on that.
I think learning to have like healthy disagreements is important too, because our lead actor, she said, I've never seen so many more positive disagreements. And I don't think we were positive like, oh, okay, like high-fiving each other, but we truly like saw the end, like we wanted the best film possible. And we all just agreed that, you know, let's get to that point. And so I think when some people, I think this also is true, like you having people that you've worked with before on set helps, and knowing like, okay, I know how they think, and being comfortable to disagree with them. But when you're dancing around everyone and like, oh, I don't want to disagree, like as a director, you have to be decisive, you have to be clear, you have to know what the vision is, but you also don't want to be, you know, a jerk to everyone either.
Sure.
So, but I do feel like that energy was on set, like where we kind of, I directed it, but I really listened to your feedback and Tim's feedback on how we can make things better. And you have to be welcome disagreement and welcome the, I guess, not seeing it your own way all the time. But then also you don't want to just agree with everyone either. You want to say, no, I really see it this way. At the end of the day, make the decision, call it, and go with it. And a lot of times we did that too, where we were running behind on things and we just picked up the pace with just being super savvy with different things. And I think that's what I enjoy about those passion projects, those short films, is the savvy nature of it all to like, you know, come up with something that works and make it happen, and just keep doing that over and over.
Yeah, I think that's so true, and you can learn a lot of that savvy nature of just doing with what works. Sometimes that's even necessary on even like main sets, being able to see a problem and solve it quickly. A lot of times you're under like a time crunch, and a lot of those like mindsets of like thinking creatively, not thinking like, oh, I'm in a union, I can't touch that. Like when you have an open mindset where like anything is possible, let's make this happen, your mind starts opening up to all the different ways you could solve this issue or do that thing. And I think like working on sets with you, we did that all the time. Like I remember that car rig that we had to set up. There was multiple things that we were like, let's try this. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, let's try it. And like everyone's just ready to give a solution, not like, okay, well, Drew will figure it out, he's a director or something like that. But like when you have that mindset, it also then helps in your actual like work that you're doing, because you have that mindset there as well. Like, well, how could we solve this? And what could we do to make this happen? And that's a muscle you're always working. And so it's super valuable.
Well, Jason, I really enjoyed the conversation, man. It's been awesome. I love how we can balance between like the business aspect of it. Like you have so much rich wisdom with the business and running like a small team with great results. But then at the same time, as a friend, someone who can apply himself to pursuit of like a passion, and kind of like put aside sort of the formality and say, let's use the skill set to make something cool. And I think that's like a great lesson for people to be, you know, have close friends that you do passion projects with, but then also be really savvy and formal with your business. Like know how to run a business and do both really well. So I appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing your gold nuggets of wisdom. Well done.
Well, thanks for having me, Drew. I definitely appreciate it. Still learning a lot myself, just sharing where I'm at in the journey. And I'm sure I'll learn a whole lot of other things to do things even better in the future. We'll have to talk down the road and see what upgrades we've kind of done in our agencies.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Jason. Appreciate it, man.